Everyone, good morning. This is the Big Brag. The rabbit felt mighty important that day, on top of the hill in the sun where he lay. He felt so important up there on that hill that he started in bragging, as animals will. He boasted out loud and threw out his chest.
Of all the beasts in the world, I'm the best. On land and on sea, even up in the sky, no animal lives who's better than I.
What's that?
Growled a voice that was terribly gruff.
Why do you say such ridiculous stuff?
The rabbit looked down and saw a big bear.
I'm the best of the beasts,
Said the bear.
and so there.
You're not.
Snapped the rabbit.
I'm better than you.
Who?
The bear snorted.
Again, I say who? You talk mighty big, Mr. Rabbit. That's true. But how can you prove it? Just what can you do?
Thought the rabbit.
Now what can I do?
He thought, and then he finally said,
Mr. Bear, do you see these 2 ears on my head? My ears are so keen and so sharp and so fine, no ears in the world can hear farther than mine.
Huh.
The bear snorted. He looked at each ear.
You said they are good,
Said the bear with a sneer.
but how do I know just how far they can hear?
I'll prove
Said the rabbit.
that my ears are the best. You sit there and watch me. I'll prove it by test.
Then he stiffened his ears till they both stood up high and pointed straight up at the blue of the sky. For 7 long minutes he sat, then he stood, listening as he could. Shh,
I'm listening.
he said as he stood. First he listened so hard that he started to sweat, and the fur on his ears and his forehead got wet. For 7 long minutes he sat, then he stirred, then he said to the bear,
Do you know what I heard? Do you see that far mountain? It's 90 miles off. There's a fly on that mountain. I just heard it cough. Now the cough of a fly, sir, is quite hard to hear when he's 90 miles off. But I heard it quite clear, so you see.
the rabbit bragged.
It's perfectly true that my ears are the best, so I'm better than you.
The bear for a moment just sulked as he sat, for he knew his ears couldn't hear things like that.
Mr. Rabbit
Oh, he thought.
has made a fool out of me.
So he,
So I've got to prove I'm better than he.
so he said to the rabbit,
You hear pretty well. You can hear 90 miles. But how far can you smell? I'm the greatest of smellers.
he bragged.
See my nose? The starts on my face is the finest that grows. My nose can smell anything but far and near. With my nose, I can smell twice as far as you hear.
You can't.
Snapped the rabbit.
I can.
Growled the bear. And he stuck his big nose way up high in the air. He wiggled that nose, and he whiffed and he wuffed. He waggled that nose, and he sniffed and he snuffed. For 10 long minutes he snapped and he snuffed. Then he said to the rabbit,
I smell far enough.
All right.
said the rabbit,
Come on now and tell exactly how far is the smell that you smell.
Oh, I'm smelling a very far smell.
said the bear.
Away past that flat on that mountain out there. I'm smelling past many great mountains beyond. 600 miles more to the edge of a pond. And way out there by that pond, you can't see, is a very small farm. On the farm is a tree. On the tree is a branch. On the branch is a nest. A very small nest where 2 tiny eggs rest. 2 hummingbird eggs, only half an inch long. But my nose
Said the bear.
is so wonderfully strong. My nose is so great that it smells without fail. But the egg on the left is just a tiny bit stale. And that is something no rabbit can do. So you see,
The bear boasted.
I'm better than you. My smell is so keen that it just can't be beat.
What's that?
Called a voice firmly down by his feet. The bear and the rabbit looked down at the sound and saw an old worm crawling out of the ground.
Oh, boys,
Said the worm.
you've been bragging a lot. You both think that you're great, but I think that you're not. You're not half as good as a fellow like me. You hear and you smell, but how far can you see?
The little old worm cocked his head to one side, and he opened his eyes, and he opened them wide. He looked far away with a strange sort of stare, as if he were burning 2 holes in the air. Now the eyes of that worm almost popped from his head. He stared half an hour till his eyelids got red.
That's enough. Now tell the rabbit and me. How far did you look? And just what did you say?
Well, boys,
The worm answered.
that look that I took was a look that looked farther than you'll ever look. I looked across the ocean, way out to Japan, where I can see farther than anyone can. There's no one on earth who's got eyesight that's finer. I looked past Japan, and I looked across China. I looked across Egypt, then took a quick glance across the 2 countries of Holland and France. I looked across England and also Brazil, but I didn't stop there. I looked much farther still. I kept right on looking and looking until I looked round the world and right back at this hill. And I saw in this hill, since my eyesight is so keen, the 2 biggest fools that have ever been seen. Who seem to have nothing else better to do than to sit here and argue who's better than who.
Little old worm gave his head a small jerk, then he dived in his hole and went back to his work. The end.
Sneetches had bellies with stars. The plain belly Sneetches had none upon bars. Those stars weren't so big, they were really so small, you might think such a thing wouldn't matter at all. But because they had stars, all the star-belly Sneetches would brag.
We're the best kind of Sneetch on the beaches.
With their snoots in the air, they would snip and they'd snort.
Nothing to do with the plain-bellied
And
sort.
whenever they met some, when they were out walking, they'd hike right on past them without even talking.
When the star-bellied children went out to play ball, could a plain-bellied Sneetch give them the game? Not at all.
You could only play if your bellies had stars, and the plain-bellied children had none upon bars.
And the star-bellied Sneetches had Frankfurter roasts or picnics or parties or marshmallow toasts.
They never invited the plain-bellied Sneetches. They left them out cold on the dark of the beaches.
They kept them away, never let them come near, and that's how they treated them year after year. Then one day, it seems, while the plain-belly Sneetches were moping and doping alone on the beaches, just sitting there wishing their bellies had stars, a stranger zipped up in the strangest of cars.
My friend!
He announced in a voice clear and keen.
My name is Sylvester McMonkey McBee, and I've heard of your troubles. I've heard you're unhappy, but I can fix that. I'm the fix-it-up chappie. I'm the fix-it-up chappie. I've come here to help you. I have what you need, and my prices are low, and I work at great speed, and my work is 100% guaranteed.
Then quickly, Sylvester McMonkey McBean put together a very peculiar machine, and he said,
You want stars like a star-bellied Sneetch? My friends, you can have them for $3 each. Just pay me your money and step right aboard.
So they clambered inside, then the big machine roared, and it clunked, and it bonked, and it jerked, and it burped, and it boxed them about, but the thing really worked. When the plain belly Sneetches popped out, they had stars. They actually did. They had stars upon ours. Then they yelled at the ones who had stars at the start.
We're just like you now. You can't tell us apart. We're all just the same now, you snooty old smarties. And now we can go to your Frankfurter parties.
It's great.
Groaned the ones who had stars at the first.
We're still the best Sneetches and they're the worst. But now how on earth will we know?
They all frowned.
If which kind is what? Or the other way round?
Then up came McBean with a very sly wink, and he said,
Things are not quite as bad as you think. So you don't know who's who. That's perfectly true, but come with me, friends. Do you know what I'll do? I'll make you again the best Sneetches on beaches, and all it will cost you is $10 each. Belly stars are no longer in style.
said McBean.
What you need is a trip through my star-off machine. This wondrous contraption will take off your stars so you won't look like them who have them on theirs.
And that handy machine, working very precisely, removed all the stars from their tummies quite nicely. Then with snoots in the air, they paraded about, and they opened their beaks, and they let out a shout.
We know who's who, now there isn't a doubt. The best kind of Sneetches are Sneetches with them.
Of course those with stars were now frightfully mad. To be wearing a star now was frightfully bad.
And of course, old Sylvester McMonkey McBee invited them into his star-off machine.
Then, of course, from then on, as you probably guessed, things really got into a horrible mess. All the rest of that day on those wild, screaming beaches, the fix-it-up chappie kept fixing up Sneetches. Off again, on again, in again, out again, through the machines, and we started to fight again. Changing their stars every minute or two.
They kept paying money, they kept running through until neither the plane nor the star bellies knew. But whether this one was that one, or which one, or what one.
What's who?
Then and he laughed as he drove in his car at the beach.
They never will learn. No, you can't teach a Sneetch.
But Higby was quite wrong. I'm quite happy to say that the Sneetches got really quite smart on that day, the day they decided that Sneetches are Sneetches.
And no kind of Sneetches are best on the beaches.
That day, all the Sneetches forgot about stars and whether they had one or not upon Thars.